Good evening. I hereby announce that pursuant to Section 5 of the Open Public Meetings Act, that adequate notice of this meeting has been provided in the notice that was sent to the Asbury Park Press, the Two River Times, and posted on the bulletin board in Township Hall, and filed in the Township Clerk's office on January 3rd, 2024. Mayor Impreveduto?
Here.
Mr. Foster is not here this evening. Ms. LaMountain?
Here.
Mr. Luke Gorelli is not here this evening. Mr. Romano?
Here.
Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thank you, Wendy. If everyone will please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Moment of silence, please, for our men and women in uniform that protect us both at home and abroad. Thank you. All right, we're going to start off with a proclamation. I know he's very surprised at this. For the man of the hour, for Victor Stevens, our public works leader for the past decade plus. I'm going to read this off, and we got some stuff to present to you, Victor. So, whereas Victor Stevens came to work at Holmdel Township in February 2014 as the Director of Infrastructure and Operations for the Department of Public Works, and whereas Victor previously served for 10 years as the Public Works Manager of Franklin Township, New Jersey, and whereas over the course of his career, Victor has continued his professional development by obtaining licenses as a Certified Public Works Manager, a Certified Recycling Professional, a Certified Pesticide Applicator, and acquiring a commercial driver's license, all to the benefit of the township's residents. And whereas during his tenure at Holmdel Township, Victor oversaw many projects, including the development of Phillips Park, the Alexander Ching Dog Park, the creation of the community garden, and the early stages of Robert Wilson Park, the construction of the new firehouse, and the renovation of the first aid building. And whereas Victor has dutifully cared for, monitored, and maintained township priorities and facilities, including Town Hall, the Senior Community Center, the Holmdel Library, and all of the township's parks and roadways. And whereas since arriving at Holmdel Township, Victor has developed robust professional relationships with his colleagues and with the township's professionals and vendors. And whereas Victor has decided that after a decade working with Holmdel Township and a long career before that, he's ready to enjoy retirement with his beloved family. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Mayor and Township Committee of the Township of Holmdel that sincere thanks be given to Victor Stevens for his years of service to the Township of Holmdel. Be it further resolved that the Township Committee, professional staff, employees, and all the residents of the township bid a fond farewell to Victor and wish him good health and happiness in his well-deserved retirement. Thank you, Victor. And just quickly on a personal note, my dad was sitting in one of these seats, I think, when you came on board, and he always had, wonderful things to say about you, and I can tell you, having gotten to know you, you've exceeded every expectation and everything he said. So really, just personally appreciate all the work you've committed to our residents, to our township, Victor. Thank you. City, Holmdel, Victor. He's been everywhere all over town anyway, so might as well allow you to knock on the doors. And of course, you've been from the township. Thank you so very much.
Victor, congratulations.
there we go. Skip the proclamation. We'll move to public comment on agenda items only. If anybody has anything they'd like to jump in on. Sir?
J&L 18 Ladwood Drive. I'm going to jump the track a little. Just in case, Victor, you're leaving, I just want to thank you, Victor Stevens. I think we've annoyed him, or I know I've annoyed him at times over the past probably decade, but he's been very responsive and receptive to feedback and issues on Ladwood Drive for years now. And thank you so much. I know everyone thanks you for that. Thank you.
Thanks, Jay. Mr. Lupi, looks like you're excited.
How you doing? Thank you, Victor, as well. Lance Loopy, Line Road. Just 2 questions on the agenda items. Confused about one budget item or bill item. Orchards at Holmdel, $33,000 for 22 and 23 projects. I was curious what that was. And then there was no information. I see there's a lot of approvals for liquor license, I guess, but there was something about Holmdel Motor Inn, but there was nothing about what it was. And I'm curious what that is. I mean, I know that that's I believe that that's a problem.
It looks like the resolution was omitted from the agenda, but the resolution would read the same as the other ones.
Okay.
Except that they have a hotel motel
Right.
license rather than a plenary, so I guess that resolution was inadvertently excluded, but it'll be consistent with all the others.
Gotcha. So it's just for them to allow them to continue to operate the hotel motel.
Correct.
Is there any concern about that property? Hasn't there been some problems in the past at that?
So my understanding, I don't know what I'm allowed to say here, Mike. So
Well, I mean, it's in the paper. Like, there's been
yeah, I won't.
issues
So
there.
I'm not going to speak. Yeah, I'm not going to speak to issues.
Right.
The ABC license, in my understanding, and I'll let our attorney jump in if I misspeak, is not leveraged or utilized at the Motor Inn itself, but the property next door where there's a restaurant.
So this is not related to the hotel motel.
It's the same owner,
Right.
right?
But this is only
they're not serving
related to
alcohol at the motel.
Right. This is only related to the liquor license on the restaurant property. Is that an
That is-
accurate statement?
I
mean,
would have to look to see what portion of the premise is licensed. My guess is it's the building where the restaurant is located. That's typically how it would occur. But the ability to have that license is tied to the motel itself. If you didn't have the motel, you wouldn't have a hotel motel liquor license.
But they don't serve booze there, as far as I know, at the Motor Inn.
Right. Okay. But I mean, just so then curious that you're gonna vote on something and you don't really have the details of what you're voting on. Is that an accurate statement?
No, I don't think it's an accurate statement.
Okay.
I think we're renewing.
Right.
We serve alcohol to Holmdel Motor Inn.
Right.
We serve it at the restaurant. The restaurant is not even sure active at this point in time, regardless of the fact there haven't been problems with the restaurant itself.
Mm-hmm.
So there's nothing precluding us from renewing, is the point that I'm making. The only time I look to the council is I worry about misspeaking around certain facts.
Of course.
You know, because I tend to overspeak.
Okay. It just seemed like there was some question as to what this was for because it's not in the agenda. So
Right,
that's
so it was an accidental omission.
okay.
We
That's fine.
certainly-
Fair enough. And then the 33,000 for the the orchards at Holmdel. I don't understand what that is, what that's for. There's really not any detail behind it. It says it's for 22 and 23.
Yep. Jay, do you have something on that?
Just, you said it's the orchards? Orchards at Holmdel? Do you know what page we're looking at? Orchard. I think it's in alphabetical, so let's see if we've got it.
Page 18. Oh, Condo Services Act. I think it's an MSA reimburse. Possibly, Jay? Does that make
Yes,
sense?
Condo Services Act, that would be reimbursement to the homeowners association for services that they pay for, specifically street lighting, snow removal, and recycling.
So they pay for it and then the town reimburses.
That's correct.
Fair enough. Thanks.
Any other public comment on agenda items? Going once, going twice, sold. Moving on to the consent agenda. One moment, please, as I scroll through one last time. Do we have a motion to approve?
Motion.
Second.
Wendy?
Ms. Lamountain?
Yes.
Mr. Romano?
Yes.
Mayor Impreviduto?
Yes.
Okay, resolutions 2024-150 to 2024-162 have been successfully passed. Thank you.
So moving on to the ABC license renewal for 24-25 resolutions. Do we have a motion to approve?
Motion.
Second.
Ms. LaMountain?
Yes.
Mr. Romano?
Yes.
Mayor and Provoduto.
Yes.
Okay, resolutions 2024-163 through 2024-170 have been successfully passed. Next is the hearing on ordinance 2024-14, which is an ordinance approving Crawford Hill redevelopment plan, Block 27, Lot 7.
Any public hearing? Any information from the public?
Ralph Blumenthal, 41 Stony Brook Road. This is clearly just another step with regard to the development or redevelopment of potential of Lot 7. First, a couple of questions and then a couple of comments on the details. Has the owner agreed to this?
Yeah. Well, do you want to run through your questions, and I could try to answer them at once with the mayor?
I mean, that's the very general question, trying to understand where this is in the process. Because at some point, the owner will have to agree to it, I believe.
That's, well, under the redevelopment process, that's certainly not the case, but in this case, we conferenced this, we actually worked with their attorney, and we went through this line by line, and both sides approved of this document.
Okay, fine. Then, consistent with the memorandum of understanding from last year, there's a provision in here that permits the building to be enlarged. Later we'll talk about details. That, and confirmed by the engineer, means that the stormwater regs have to come into play.
Excuse me. We had a conversation. I did not review this,
Fair
against
enough.
the stormwater calculation, so I did not confirm anything regarding stormwater in relationship to this redevelopment
I'm
plan.
not trying to hold you to anything of that sort. But it's my impression that if you expand the building or do anything to change the footprint or things of that nature, that you now become subject to the current stormwater regs. When this building was built, things were very different. And that could conceivably have a significant impact on what could or couldn't be done on that site. There's no mention of that in this document. At some point, I think there should be such a mention. That has to be taken into consideration. Then, a lot of the document is what I'll call boilerplate description of the status of the rules that apply and the like. Most important is, to me, is when it gets into the specifics of what is permitted under this redevelopment plan. In essence, this supersedes the existing zoning ordinance. So that there is on page 8 a list of permitted uses, which is different from what's in the current zoning ordinance. It
Correct.
does allow
Correct.
some additional uses that is different from what's currently permitted. None of that list surprised me. And I understand that given the existing market for office, it's appropriate to consider if the building is going to get reutilized in a private fashion, for that to be done. And to me, it appeared that these are okay.
Thank you.
Going on to the next page, page 9, where it gives bulk requirements. Some of these are new to the site because the site was previously developed with all 3 lots as an entity. One change I noted is the building height. The current building height limitation is 100 feet. This limits to 50 feet. That's lower, and I think probably more appropriate for the location. Then the side yard setbacks and the rear yard setbacks are reduced from 100 feet to 20 and 50 feet respectively. I was a little bothered by that but I think in part it probably is realistic given how close this lot is to Lot 6 to take into account those interfaces. Then there is the change in this front yard setback. The existing front yard setback is 500 feet. This reduces it to 200 feet. I take strong exception to that. I don't think we want structures on that site so close to Holmdel Road. On the other hand, on the very next page, page 10, paragraph 3, in essence, it contradicts that. I don't know if any of you know how far the current building is set back from Holmdel Road. I'm going to guess it's on the order of 500 feet. I'm not sure.
This was actually discussed, and the term that's in these design standards is from the MOU. The bulk standards were developed between both sides planners, going back and forth and working off of GIS and estimates. But the design standard, the more specific provision would govern, and the township committee was very cognizant of trying to maintain setbacks when we did the MOU last year. So that specific provision that it can't get any closer to Holmdel Road than the building currently sits remains.
Okay, so, yeah, I mean, that's the paragraph 3 that I was just pointing to, that new construction or renovations will be permitted outside of the current building footprint as long as current zoning setbacks are maintained, and further shall not be any closer to Holmdel Road or the access road than the existing building. And I think that, to me, is an appropriate statement. And the 200-foot statement on the previous page, I think, is irrelevant as a consequence. Yeah, I mean, these are all important numbers that impact how the site may or may not be developed going forward. So that's why I wanted to take a look at that. Is this reasonable or not? And with those comments, I think it is a reasonable and an appropriate step as you move forward in trying to have something happen on this site.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just one comment regarding the reference earlier to stormwater. I would note in section 7, existing development regulations, the last sentence reads, in any instance where this redevelopment plan is silent, the requirements of the development regulations shall still govern. So that provision, you know, unless the redevelopment says otherwise, Holmdel's development ordinances continue to apply.
And, Mr. Mayor, also on page 10, the last sentence under the design standards, all development must meet the design standards set forth by the Township of Holmdel. That's, stormwater is clearly
important.
picked up in our
Yeah.
design standards and ordinance.
Because I believe all of that may impact what one considers one might wish to do with the site. The instant you trigger that, any of that stuff, whoa, you got a lot of work to do.
Yeah,
If
yeah.
you don't trigger it,
That's right.
you're a lot simpler.
Yes, we're in agreement. Thank you, Ralph.
Thank you.
And anybody else? Mr. Trisketa?
Patrick Trisketa, 56 Line Road. I read this in detail, and the whole concepts are fine, and they were agreed to in the MOU. But we're still, I think, missing the most obvious and most beneficial to Holmdel use of the property, which would be to knock down the building and return it to open space. And even though that this ordinance doesn't preclude that happening, I'm just asking that the township committee with the owner, you know, make that a preference of returning it, just knocking down the building. It's been closed. It's a white elephant there for a long time. There's no way he's going to rent it or put millions of dollars to refurbish this building on whatever footprint, on whatever size. So how about taking the building down, planting grass there, and then the township could take a look at it in a few years on what to do with it when we have Robert Wilson Park fully developed. Okay,
I appreciate that.
thank you.
Anybody else from the public?
Jay Yanello, 18 Ladwood Drive. I really like Mr. Trichetta's idea. Just so we're 100% sure. So the setback is the existing building. I know you just said that, but since the document's confused, yes. And thank you, because setbacks are a huge issue right now with a lot of things in play. You see Verde Woods, looks like it's right against the road. I think that's an eyesore there. I don't know how that happened. Maybe it was permitted there. And Heavenly Estates, that's a very hot issue right now. So the existing building is good, but no building is better. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else from the public? Okay. I'm making a motion to adopt on this. Do I have a motion to adopt ordinance 2024-14?
Motion.
Second.
Ms. LaMountain?
Yes.
Mr. Romano?
Yes.
Mayor Pravaduto.
Yes.
2024-14 has been successfully approved and will be published in the Asbury Park Press according to law.
Great. Thank you, Wendy. Moving on to our administrator, Mr. Delaney.
Thank you, Mayor. A couple of items maybe I'll address, and then we'll move into the public hearing for the Monmouth County Open Space Grant Program. Just a follow-up to our last meeting, the question was raised regarding the placement of a no turn on red sign at Line Road in Bethany, that traffic light. Arrangements have been made with Aberdeen Township. They will be providing, doing the installation of that sign. They have the necessary equipment and ability. There will be cooperation through the township to facilitate that. But those arrangements have been made, and we expect that to be completed in the near future.
Thank you. Thank you.
Also, a follow-up, the long-awaited stormwater report has been delivered. At this time, I certainly want to thank the professionals at Collier's Engineering in that long effort to bring that to fruition, as well as my thanks to Victor Stevens and his staff in shepherding that project through and providing the necessary assistance to get it to this point. It is comprehensive. It is pending, or it is currently under review internally, and we'll be discussing that more fully and expect some sort of a presentation to provide some details on the plan itself.
Great. Thank you. We're
And
good?
And at this time, what's listed is the public hearing on the township's planned application for grant funds through the Monmouth County Open Space Grant Program. We've identified a project that is being recommended for the installation of lighting. This would be the phase 2 of the pickleball and athletic courts up near the swim club. And the estimated cost for the total project is $350,000. This is a 50% match, township funds with the county funds if we are awarded. This has been, notice of this hearing has been published and posted, and we are required as part of the application process to solicit public comment on the planned application.
Okay. Thank you, Jay. Do we have any public comment on the resolution approving application for the Monmouth County Municipal Open Space Grant Program, specifically related to the lights at the new pickleball courts? Going once, going twice. Closed.
And Mayor, you'll see that there's the resolution listed. I would ask the Township Committee's consideration for adopting that resolution authorizing the submission at this time.
Thank you, Jay. Do we have a motion to adopt?
Motion.
Second.
Ms. LaMountain?
Yes.
Mr. Romano?
Yes.
Mayor Pravaduto.
Yes.
Resolution 2024-171 has been successfully passed. Thank you.
Thank you, Wendy. The CFO is not here this evening. Mr. Attorney?
No report, Mayor. I'd be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Engineer?
Nothing at this time, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Boards and committees? We'll start with you, Joe.
All right, nothing new to report from the library. from the Board of Education. The 2023-2024 school year came to a successful close last week. Throughout the district, there were a variety of auspicious end-of-year assemblies and ceremonies for students moving to new grades and schools. Last week, SAT's middle school graduation ceremony went off without a hitch, with 252 eighth graders graduating. Also last week, the 50th Holmdel High School commencement ceremony took place, with 238 students graduating. After graduation, the senior class took part in the project graduation at Adventure Crossing in Jackson. The school district thanks all the parents and volunteers who made this event possible to keep our seniors safe. It looks to be a busy summer for the school district. The extended school year and summer step-up programs will be offered once again, and the district staff will be hard at work with the annual cleaning and summer maintenance. Superintendent Cascone and the Board of Education wish all students, parents, and residents a safe and restful summer. Nothing new to report from the Holmdel Heritage Committee.
Thank you, Joe. Ms. LaMountain?
Thank you, Mayor. Our Holmdel Green Team, they have met with the Township Administrator Delaney and Barbara Kowaleski from administration, as well as representatives from Sustainable Jersey, to learn about and register for Sustainable Jersey's free technical assistance program. And this program will help us to conduct an energy audit of our municipal buildings. The Green Team was contacted by a Holmdel resident inquiring about options for textile recycling. So the team is currently researching those options, and their next meeting will be July 1st. Members of the public are invited to attend. Anyone who cannot attend in person can also email their feedback or questions at greenteam@holmdeltownship.com.
Thank you, Kim. Earlier today, the Rec Department hosted the annual Senior Summer Barbecue at the Community Center. There were about 120 senior residents there. Food was great. Recreation Department did a magnificent job as always. People were very happy, and I was really pleased with the turnout and the reception. This past Friday, the Township Committee hosted what we hope to be the first of many volunteer nights at the swim club for members of our first aid squad and fire department. There were a bunch of folks there having a great time in the heat. It was a great day for them. I was proud that we could do it and certainly hope we can do more. And I want to thank once again all of our first responders for giving their time and keeping us safe. The Bellworks Stars and Stripes fireworks that were originally scheduled for tomorrow have been rescheduled for this Thursday, June 27th from 6 to 11 p.m. due to anticipated weather. And the Holmdel Township Police Department Patrolman Brian O'Keefe and Patrolman Richard Anzarillo received the Recognition of Excellence Award certificate from Mothers Against Drunk Driving at their annual New Jersey Law Enforcement Recognition event on Monday, June 24th. Patrolman O'Keefe and Anzarillo made exemplary contributions to roadway safety and held the highest number of DWI arrests for the department during the 2023 year. Congratulations to both of those officers, and a sincere thank you for their hard work and diligence. With no other business to discuss, we'll move on to public comment.
In accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, this is a public comment period for public comment on any governmental issue of public concern. In accordance with Resolution 2022-17, public commenters are asked to raise their hand and wait to be recognized by the mayor before coming forward and making public comments. Commenters are asked to state their full name and address before commenting. Public commenters are limited to one comment not to exceed 3 minutes. Comments should be directed to the mayor and the township committee. If appropriate, the mayor may direct and recognize a staff employee or professional to respond to comments either at this meeting or in writing after this meeting.
Thank you, Wendy. Before we start public comment, just one other item of note. The administrator and I have connected, and he's reached out to JCP&L to have a discussion, hopefully for our next meeting, July 9th.
It's tentative.
Tentatively for our next meeting, just to discuss some of the issues we've had, certainly around South Holmdel, some of the sort of minor outages and flickerings and brownouts and things that have been taking place, just to get an explanation from them and ways in which that can be prevented in the future. So by all means, let's kick off public comment. Mr. Blumenthal?
Ralph Blumenthal, 41 Stony Brook Road. I was pleased to hear about the Collier's storm facility study being now in your hands, or in the hands of the building. I'm sure the Environmental Commission would appreciate seeing that as well, because they were involved with the beginning of it and would like to be able to see the report. And if we could get that for our next meeting, that would be very helpful. And I'm not sure, one thing you announced was the delay of the fireworks from tomorrow night. I'd also looked at the weather forecast, and yeah, doesn't look very good for tomorrow night. However, the consequence now is we'll have 2 sets of fireworks that evening.
I think
The
we can.
fireworks at Bell Works,
Yeah.
and at the same time, the presidential debate.
I'm going to
Which
be.
one will be louder, I don't know.
I don't know, but I'll be watching the fireworks.
Anyway, thank you and have a good evening.
Thanks, Ralph. And just a quick question, and it's maybe procedural or preference. I think, Jay, you had mentioned perhaps Collier's coming in and doing a presentation of the document. Ralph, would it be beneficial to maybe do that first before we hand it off for further evaluation, just so there's context and color, provided before there's a sort of, I worry about false conclusions being drawn on things, is my personal concern.
Well, we've been aware of what's going on, have seen partial results and the like. I think given the interest of at least some of the members of the HEC who do have some technical expertise, I think it would be helpful for people to take a look at it and then have a presentation and then be able to ask questions. So it's a little bit of chicken and the egg. Which comes first? Do you want to see the details? Do you want to see the summary? You probably want to go back and forth, but we're not going to do all of it 3 times, I'm sure. So
Okay. Let us get through our internal review first then, and then we'll figure out the next appropriate step.
fine. Yeah.
Cool.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Jay Yanello, 18 Ladwood Drive. I don't know if you've gotten word of this, but and I haven't called the police, but we've had a lot of parties in our area over the past few weeks, and I know firsthand, I've heard from people, the police have come to several of the parties for noise. Have you gotten any wind of this in South Holmdel? I mean, I love music. I love all types of music. Some people are bringing in professional DJs with professional systems, and they're wailing them at 11. Sunday night, the whole block was hearing music at midnight. Again, I'm not a Scrooge. I'm not going to call unless this is a recurring event. But the reason I bring this up is I think it's high time in our next publication or in some sort of edict from the township, you remind people of the policy. What is the policy? Is it 10 o'clock? I mean, is it 11 o'clock on weekends?
Pretty sure it's 10 o'clock and 11 on weekends. I'm pretty sure.
I mean, and 11 is fine, but again, it's the magnitude of this. And I heard 3 cop cars had to come to the one party on Rambling Brook a week or so, a couple of weeks ago. I mean, really? So I think a reminder is in order at some point.
I think it's fair. We can put a reminder out on social media. We could probably do something on the newsletter as well.
Yeah.
And yes, I mean, I'm aware that the police had responded to a number
Okay,
of...
I didn't know if you were.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Mr. Lupi?
Lance Loopy Line Road. So first, obviously, a huge thank you to what was going to be 582 days today since first brought up.
Well, it's still 582, but...
Well, yeah, it's true. But I do, I mean, not that I'm not appreciative. First, I question who was involved, who pushed this over the finish line. Right?
After the meeting last week, myself, the administrator, and Chief Alaco got together to reinvigorate the process, I guess is the way to put it, Jay? I don't know.
Okay. And I just asked because, I mean, again, 582 days, meetings, I went to Aberdeen, they told me, sorry, nothing we could do. It's a state thing. I was told here it's a state thing, has to be a state thing. So how all of a sudden did we get, in 14 days or less, how did we cut through all this red tape to get this done? And how is Aberdeen doing it when every person I spoke to during this whole process, the state has to facilitate this installation. And now all of a sudden Aberdeen is somehow facilitating the installation. So
I really can't. I can't speak to those details. I don't know if the administrator made some magic happen. If he can speak to details.
Like I said, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
So I'm not trying to be unappreciative. I'm just curious how all of a sudden, magic happened.
It's a fair question.
Okay. Line road paving. Have we got any update on that from Aberdeen or New Jersey American Water? Because New Jersey American Water is responsible, but I think since it's an Aberdeen project in the I section that they're coordinating.
Yeah. I haven't received an update on that, Jay. I'm not sure if you have gotten anything back there.
Without disclosing all of the magic or tricks, I will tell you that I should have mentioned that when I was on the phone with the Aberdeen administrator, and I'll follow up with him and see if they have updated information on the status of the New Jersey American road restoration.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Thank you for the update on the turn signal at the high school. I appreciate that. I still am against the project as a whole, but I just think that light would be simple enough, cheap enough, and not require.
It's more expensive than you think, actually.
I'm not saying it's not.
But we're.
But all the other components of that,
Yeah.
I don't know where we gain benefit. That's
Yeah,
just my opinion. I'm not an
No, that's
engineer.
fair.
I'm nothing.
Yeah. No, and I'm not arguing with you. It's a fair point. I think the point that I want to hammer home is I think this is something. I do think it's a choke point for sure, and we're not moving forward unless we get the grant approval. So it's not. It's going to be funded. If we can get it done, it'll be reimbursement grant, I think, by the state, Jay, to effect. So it's not necessarily coming out of pocket. Okay. And so it's a necessary improvement. I think I've spoken to some engineers. They think it could have been, if we had the funds, it should have been done 15 years ago, given the congestion there. So we're just looking, if we have the ability to do it, we want to try to make it better, I guess.
What would be great is if that road got repaved, because it's actually absolutely an atrocious.
It is, and there's a couple of factors in there, but
I'm sure there is. I don't know if the bike path, all that other stuff is.
Well, and I might be a little bit more.
But
I tend to be maybe too process oriented sometimes on certain things. For me, it's getting the approval on the grant to see if we're going to be doing that significant level of work on the road first, up through SATS, and then we do have a plan that's going to be milled and paved. The Crawford's Corner Road and the issues are planned to be milled and paved this year, but there's no sense doing that until we know if we're going to be doing significant work.
Of course, there's nothing I despise more than seeing work done and then 3 weeks later they rip up the road for some reason, and then which is what happened on Line Road for us. License plate readers, I had brought that up last time. I didn't really hear anything, but I did have a question on that though, because there seemed like there was some concern over privacy, and I'm not really sure what those concerns would be.
I don't know about concerns over privacy necessarily, but
I don't know if our attorney, there was some concern that our attorney had raised when I think, and maybe I'm misremembering, and I apologize if
I'm not sure. I don't recall the specific conversation.
Okay, so I just asked about what the effectiveness was of that.
So here's what I can tell you.
Spend that we made for that.
It's a good question, and I can tell you, and this is coincidental in nature, but I literally talked to a resident last night, and they caught people that were robbing his house based on the license plate readers.
Well, that's awesome.
So I, not anticipating we'd have this conversation again today, but it was one of those where like he said it, and I was like, I can't wait to tell Lance. So they work.
Okay. All right. And then the last thing is the last meeting. I'd also asked about the shop Holmdel, and I think the response I got was,
yeah, we're having trouble getting retailers.
We're having trouble getting. So we spent some amount, 5, 7, 8,000. I don't remember the number. That was some time ago.
It was a little under 10, yeah.
Okay, so we spent some amount of money to
build
facilitate the infrastructure.
Correct.
But we didn't get anyone.
We're struggling with it.
That wants to participate.
We're struggling with it.
Did we gauge any interest before we just went out and spent this?
We didn't, because it's had success in other areas. And we know that there are certain areas of town that are challenged with retail. And I expected the adoption and enthusiasm to be more significant than it was. It doesn't mean we're not still making a run at these things. We're working it through with everything else.
Okay, because I brought up that our family business stopped participating in the Hazlitt one because of the cost associated with it. Because the vendor, the owner pays for that.
Yeah, in this instance, the owner's not paying necessarily. It's more of a.
Well, you give up revenue.
Well, you give up revenue, or
a percentage of that revenue has to go to the town.
Or it can be considered a promotional or coupon type thing.
It could, right?
In
so
that
there's
way.
a tax benefit there.
Right.
I'm just saying that.
Yeah. Now, look, there's pros and cons. Like I said, it's been well received in other areas.
Mm-hmm.
We've just been challenged getting retailers on board.
Thank you.
So, yep. Anybody else in the public? Mr. Tsuchida?
Patrick Triscuita, 56 Line Road. Any updates on the planning for Robert Wilson Park?
Jay, do you have an update from the last meeting? I know we had taken there'd been a viewing up there, right, with some other folks, and to make sure that we get a certain certified engineer and architect on there, but I don't know if we have anything beyond that.
Yes, we have actually received a proposal from our township architect to really address the first stage, which is scheduling a meeting with the state historic preservation folks to just really clarify some of their requirements in preparation for moving into the next step.
So we're still in sort of the requirements gathering. That is the point on this.
That's correct.
Okay. Anybody else in the public? Going once, going twice. All right, we'll move on to motion to close.
Motion.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thanks, everybody.